I want to return to the portrait of Andrea Jenkins. I'm just incredibly honored to have her portrait in our collection now and to have her in the show.
I was really honored that you are acquiring the work, Andrea's picture in particular, because it's just so important to me that this work lives in museum spaces, and also that particularly when someone is local, that just seems so important to have that kind of visibility and representation. And someone as high profile as Andrea is even more important. And when I met her, she was definitely an activist, but she hadn't yet run for her position.
I realized as I was writing about your portrait that she looks like an icon. She has this brass doorway. It's almost like, first of all, she's in a liminal space. So here she is on the threshold of something, a hotel lobby, an office building, the corridors of power, because this is right when she's announcing that she's going to be running for office. But also she's in a space that reads in terms of sort of classical or academic art history as almost like an altar because of the gold and the sort of reflective surfaces around her. So I wonder if you had given that some thought when you were posing her, or if that was just happenstance.
For all of my portraits, I'm always trying to make a portrait that is dignified and really humanist. And so I think about that with every location, with every pose. And I'm not necessarily always going for flattering, which is a difference I explain to people, but I am always going for dignified. And Andrea, we had made a portrait actually at her home, and I wasn't particularly happy with it formally. I felt like it didn't quite make the cut for me as a visual object. And I also learned from her that, she had been going through a difficult time and it didn't feel quite right to her. So we were both going to be in Chicago, and we decided to make a second portrait, which is something I did with a few people in the project, not most of the time, but I did some reshoots if I felt like I really wanted the person, but I hadn't quite nailed the photograph. And so we were in Chicago, we were at the Creating Change conference, and that was in front of the Hilton, which is on Michigan Avenue, and, has this kind of opulent entranceway. And and I remember seeing what she was wearing, her gloves and that coat, and just feeling like that would be a really beautiful background. It was also really visually warm. We made it, that was February, so it was cold outside, but the setting was really visually warm and kind of radiant, and I just loved how she looked there.